Добреешь. Что такое вообще? Okay. How are you, Mo?
I'm okay. How are you?
How is the weather in Bangladesh today?
It's very hot. It's humid.
We are fine. And we are also already having ice on our cars in the morning.
I see.
Really?
Really, yeah.
Oh,
Not
geez.
today, but yesterday. But the weather is beautiful today.
The weather is here as well clear, but the humidity is too much. It's just unbearable. It will last maybe another couple of days. Some heat wave is going on right now.
Okay. But you're kind of used to it, right?
Well, maybe, maybe not.
Are you based in Dhaka?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, where is
morning.
Bruce?
I'm here. I'm here. Yes, yes.
I am glad to hear you.
Yeah, тоже, Katya.
That's great. I was worried about you,
I
actually.
know, you never know. You never know if I'm going to make it or not. It's a crapshoot. But now we have got to get my video here. Let's see. Start video.
Oh, yeah, you made it.
Ah, yeah.
You made it.
Wonderful. That's wonderful.
Привет всем.
I'm just wondering, Bruce, have you ever participated in some kind of online judicial proceeding?
In an actual judicial proceeding, no. We have partner meetings and practice group meetings more often than you would even like to imagine. And so I get a chance. Oh, and we had one with the Russian Court of Intellectual Property. We had 75 people on a Zoom meeting. I was the only American.
I see.
Was it like scientific consultants or something?
Да, тот же самый.
Yeah.
Before we launch, let's just have a little rehearsal. Well, the first person to speak is Ekaterina, and we just discussed what Ekaterina has to say. Then I had a kind request of Tatiana Goncharova to give her not more than 1 minute for another portion of greeting words on behalf of the co-organizers of SIB Legal Week, and hope you don't mind. But Tatiana promised me to keep it 1 minute. Lilia, that means from the very practical point of view that Tatiana Goncharova might be requesting her participation in this call as a kind of, member, right? Lilia, ты меня понимаешь?
Лиля, Татьяну Гончарову нужно включить.
Я пока не вижу ее.
As soon as you see her. And then I'll make the first introduction remarks. It will last not more than 1 minute. I will admit that my knees are shaking when I go to the court, and explaining that I'm going to find out in course of this session, is it a kind of imminent death sentence to me as a professional or not. And then we'll start with the very first question: where do the litigators come from? And any volunteers to be the first one to speak in substance?
I think we need some introduction. You mentioned previously
it will
that
be done by Ekaterina and me.
Okay.
But
I mean, introduction of speakers. Before you mentioned that we need to present ourselves.
Introduction round, of course, Anna. You're so beautiful and so wonderful. Yeah, that's exactly what. Yeah, that's right. Then introduction round. Why wouldn't we just try to move from the we can be following the sun. Let's put it this way. It could be Dhaka, Novosibirsk, Moscow, Frankfurt, London, although I believe that Vladislav Zabrodin is now in Moscow. But
actually in St. Petersburg.
I think
No,
Moscow
so it
comes
is-
first.
But I want to put someone between you and Anna Grishenkova, however terrible it sounds. But then London and then Bruce. And probably we will start next round from the Western hemisphere to the Eastern. Is it okay with you?
I cannot see myself on the screen. Is there any reason?
Yes, we cannot see you, Maksadul. That's right.
Yeah, I also cannot see me.
Okay, that means that now we can see you. Now.
Yeah, I cannot see. I cannot see myself. I'm not on the screen.
But we can see you.
Okay, good. So if you can see it, that's fine.
Yeah. You look wonderful today, and you are going to be
thank
the
you.
first to start your introduction. Okay.
I'll be the first one.
To start the introductory round.
Okay.
Okay. So that's fine, and I think the time is up, right?
I mean,
For us to
yes.
start. Let me just check out. Oh yeah, certainly. So we make the people wait. 2 minutes already. Lydia, it's time to invite the people to our room. Well, these photos really look like a preacher and 6 apostles. Don't you think so?
Oh,
It's rather very ambitious statement on my side. I must
Preacher, definitely. At least not 6 juries, you know.
Yeah. Well, I look like a martyr, really. Saint Martyr. Gee, I really should change the photo.
No, wonderful photo.
Oh, gee, no. I don't think it really looks professional.
Very, very encouraging.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like a
So we
vision.
do we have the people coming? Hello? Yeah.
I think 3 participants so far.
3 participants.
I see 11.
But it's with us.
Well,
8 of
it's
us
us.
and
Ah,
3
yeah,
participants. And should we notify our participants that we plan to record this session? Ekaterina, what do you think? Or we are not recording this session?
We are
Recording. Okay.
I think it's worth recording. Come on. Come on.
Yeah, actually, yeah, and we have YouTube translation, so it's written in the corner of our session. So that's I think that's okay.
Yeah. Let's hit the eternity, guys. We are on record.
Here it is. Okay.
Whatever we say can be used against us in a court of law.
So you suggest us just to be silent, not to say anything.
No. Okay, I would suggest that we wait another minute and start at 5 past sharp.
I'm just worried about the correct link.
Vladislav, am I correct that I have just seen you in another
It's
virtual
deja vu,
room?
yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
It's either my red clothing or kind of, you know, same face. You know, it's called glitch of the matrix.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, you may remind us, Mr. Smith, you know, from
Hopefully
Matrix.
not, you know.
Okay. So it's 5 past. Ekaterina, I think we have a go. We have other participants coming up.
Great. Yeah, I see Leonid also have joined us. That's great, Maksadu. Okay, so From our team of organizers, I want to welcome our panelists and our participants that could hear and see us today. So this session will be held in English. So that's why maybe we have so few volunteers to participate in our discussion and to put our some questions. But we have started this tradition in Novosibirsk because I personally believe that Novosibirsk lawyers need to speak English, need to know that they are able to understand English, and that is the part of our legal profession to speak to different people in all corners of the world. And I am the managing partner of company INCA that deals with intellectual property. We are situated in Novosibirsk, and we work with different specialists from different countries. So, for example, I met Maksadul in Hong Kong, in INTA, was it 2014, I think? Maksadul, do you remember when it was? Yeah. So it's just interesting to meet different people when you come in different countries and participate in international conferences. So why I have chosen this topic, this particular topic, what makes a good litigator? Because I'm actually doing litigation in my professional life. So, and it's specialized litigation. So it's litigation in the field of intellectual property. So what I'm worried about, should I choose the litigation as my only activity in my legal profession? Or it is possible actually to be a firm that is doing everything in the field of intellectual property? Because I know that in the US, there are some companies that are doing only litigation. As I understand, Bruce is the representative and as I know, in the US, there are specialists in patent filing and specialists in litigation, and there are they are two different persons, so they do not doing the both. And in Russia, we are doing everything, and we are doing everything in our general law practice firm, and we are doing everything in our intellectual property firms. Is it the right way to practice, or we should come to a more strict specialization in our profession? So that was my particular question to our panelists, but I know that Alexander Kweshinski, who will be the chair of the session, has his own view on the topic. So Alexander, the floor is yours. So please introduce maybe as the mainstream of the discussion. How do you see it?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. My name is Alexander Kweshinski. I'm a co-founder and partner of the consultancy firm Legal Strategy. I'm based in Berlin, and I'm truly honored to chair this session. I want to thank organizers and stakeholders of the Civil Legal Week for this opportunity. Our session and the international participants made this forum truly international, and I believe it's great we have an opportunity to talk in English. And one of the reasons for this session, one of the reasons behind putting forward this idea of this session is actually, well, I mean, why should we speak English if we are lawyers? Why should we speak English if we consider ourselves to be good litigators? I personally, when I pursued the legal career, was scared to death by appearing in the court. My knees were shaking, and that was actually one of the reasons why I left the legal profession, indeed. And for me, as a kind of professional lawyer's admirer, I can only see that litigating lawyers are kind of special. They have some kind of special set of skills. They litigate and litigation, the oral arguments, all this kind of drive, all this kind of stress. It's a kind of drug for these people. They can't really live without it. But I have never been able to identify what it is actually that makes the people who like litigating in the court so special. And the best way to find out is just to invite the people either with an amazing experience in the field, different field of specialized or non-specialized general litigation, or the people with an amazing international experience dealing with different kind of lawyers who can really sort the lawyers in different, groups and exchanging opinions about what makes a good litigator. And as a first round in our session, I want to, I was supposed to introduce every speaker, but we just agreed that the best way to start, to launch this session is just to ask every speaker to make a self-introduction within 1 minute, very short, to explain in what area you consider yourself a specialist, in particular if it is an area of litigation, like court representation. What do you do, where do you work, and why actually you dare to say something about this right now, today. We decided to start by following the sun from Dhaka. Maqsadul, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Alexander. Privyet. I hope everybody is doing well. I'm from Bangladesh. It is a South Asian country. It's somewhere in between India and there is a Bay of Bengal in the south side of the India. But this is an independent country. Sometimes people make mistake that this is not an independent country, and that it is a part of India, but that's not true. This is an independent country. I live in the capital, Dhaka. I am, actually, initially I started my practice not with IP as a general practitioner, but always as a litigator. And in my country, there is nothing called that you have to stay in one area. You can practice almost everything. So I have started 15 years ago. And since I have started IP, I found that other than IP, I would not have been a complete person in a legal world, because IP gave me the international exposure more than any other field I practice. Although I have a practice in maritime law, like admiralty law and company laws, but IP has given me the exposure to all over the world, to people from different country and different background. In Bangladesh, my firm, we do not send out any work. Most of the time we take work from other part of the world. So in this way, I have clients and friends and colleagues and associates almost 30, 40 countries. I think 40 or 45 countries all over the world, they have sent me works. So, and I am in touch with all of them. So in this way, I am in connection. I am in constant touch with all the people all over the world. So as a litigator, as I said, that our practice is, we have a wide range of practice in almost in every sector of law, but litigation and IP is one of the more important part of my practice, and I am a litigator, as I said. And after that, I will explain more that what is, if there is anything you want to ask about me, or if you want to. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Maqsadul. So, Ekaterina, you were able to make some introductory remarks, so I'll pass the word to Anna Grishenkova.
Alexander, thank you. Yes, so my name is Anna Grishenkova. I'm a partner in the Russian law firm KIAP, and I do dispute resolution more than 16 years. And I started doing domestic litigation in one of the regions of Russia. It was Tula region. And I started from corporate conflicts and a lot of different corporate battles. But through my career, I moved to international arbitration and to cross-border disputes. And I'm doing this now for the last 8 years, I believe. And I'm also sitting as an arbitrator, so this helps me to understand mind of judges and arbitrators and to help my clients better.
Thank you. Thank you, Anna. Thank you. Then we move to Frankfurt. Felix.
John, I hope you can hear me.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. Very good. My name is Felix Bronsdorf Bastians. I am lawyer of a German law firm, Graf von Westphalen. I work in the office in Frankfurt, Maine. I have been in Germany now for 30 years and have 20 years experience as a German lawyer. Very briefly about our law firm, we are 160 lawyers in 5 cities in Germany, now in 1 month in 6 cities. In my first life, I am Russian. So I was born in Russia, was raised there, and even graduated from the Moscow University as a Russian lawyer. Then I moved to Germany and became a lawyer there. So my focus is litigation and arbitration, and my cases are mostly international, cross-border cases. So I work for foreign clients, handle foreign witnesses, and very often they are cases where foreign law is applied. In my arbitration cases, I act both as a counsel for the parties and also as an arbitrator. And a part of I do maybe 90% dispute resolution work, but 10% is as corporate and commercial work, but also very much related to dispute resolution. And finally, I am head of Russian desk of our law firm. That's all.
Yeah, thank you very much, Felix. Thank you very much, Vladislav Zabrodin. Considering imposters among litigators, that made 2 of us, right? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Vladislav?
Yeah, sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah. Perfect.
Yeah, that was the first question I actually asked myself, why exactly I'm there. You know, I technically not a litigator, and I was never a litigator. But then, of course, you know, as a normal lawyer, I start, you know, trying to explain myself what exactly I'm doing in the place that I'm not supposed to be. And obviously, the answer is that all my life, actually, I work with litigators, and I was working as a litigator, as, you know, in-house person, as a representative of a major international law firm, and as the managing partner of the Russian law firm. And from that perspective, usually it's actually kind of, you know, bad example for me when the litigator is coming in, because it means that as a lawyer, I did something wrong. But that's, of course, a kind of negative perception of the situation. Usually there is much more positive perception of the situation. And, you know, sometimes in many cases, I'm in the case and the litigator is in the case because we need to do something good for the client. And maybe sometimes, you know, the client did something good. So from the point of view of the work, I think that, you know, our work with litigation is actually very, very diversified, because we have offices in St. Petersburg, Moscow, Helsinki, and London. And in all these jurisdictions, we do usually work with litigators. And as you know, in some of the countries like UK, you need to be a barrister, you know, to go to the court. So in many cases, what we're actually doing, we're supporting our clients in the cases when the barristers are representing these cases in the courts. But otherwise, I do hire litigators, and I do have litigators inside of the firm. And from that point of view, probably my value to this panel would be to say, to look at the litigators from a bit different perspective. Technically not into the mirror, but at least from the outside, and to say what my perception of the good litigator is and how exactly I perceive a litigator to be a good one. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Vladislav. So, and let's just start and go ahead with our. Oh, I'm sorry, Bruce. I forgot. Washington.
Oh, I might get a free pass here.
I'm terribly sorry. I'm terribly sorry. Just go ahead.
But you can't use any of my minute. and I'm going to need all of it because I've got a lot of years. But I started out litigating as an intern in law school at a government agency, and in my first job, I started out as a litigator in a specialized field of energy litigation, but because of economic conditions in the country, the energy market fell, and my expertise became less valuable. At that time, and I'm talking about 40 years ago, I had an opportunity to go into government contracts. President Reagan had just been elected, and he was throwing hundreds of billions of dollars into armament and Cold War stuff, as maybe you don't remember because you're younger than I am, or maybe some do. At that point, I had an opportunity to go into government contracts, which is a very lucrative field because of all of the defense spending, but I chose to go into litigation instead because it's what I always wanted to do. So that's my story. The only thing I wanted to add to that was that before I was a litigator, I was a Russian language student. And the reason that I was doing that was because the most important thing happening in the world at the time was the Cold War. And I think it still is. And I thought if there was anything that I could do to get into a situation where I could be speaking and interacting and communicating with Russians, that was probably the most valuable thing that I could do. And it kind of turned out that litigation was one of the ways that I've been able to do that. So it all tied together. That's my story.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And let's proceed with the first question. So what makes a good litigator? Are you born as a litigator, or where do the good litigators grow? What are the factors and or environments that create the people with amazing litigation skill? Or probably is it not about being not about environment? Maybe it is about some kind of mission you actually want to speak up for, just like it was the case with Bruce. Bruce, do you mind starting now with the first question round from west to east, so to say?
I'm just going to give you my best thoughts. At first, I thought that the question was so general and sweeping that it couldn't generate much discussion. And the more I thought about it, the more complicated and important it became. So my answer is that a good litigator can come from many different environments or have many different qualities. The most important thing to do is to know what your best quality is and to exploit that. For example, if you're a good writer can be a good litigator, but also a good speaker could be a good litigator. I think that the most important quality trait comes from the desire and the ability to tell a story. And you know if you have this ability or not, because when you're looking at people, you can tell if they're looking at you or if they're not paying attention to you. And if you're the kind of person that enjoys making that contact, the eye contact, the intellectual contact, if you're a person who enjoys doing that and wants to do that, then you can be a good litigator, I think.
Thank you very much. Vladislav? Microphone, Mike.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's a combination, frankly speaking, because I think to very much extent, a good litigator is definitely a nature. So from my perspective, nice person in a kind of some way could not be a good litigator. You have to have very critical mind. You have to have very strong position in life. You have to be able to support your position all the time, because that actually requires some kind of guts. And if you want to be nice, that wouldn't work. And definitely a good litigator is not a peacemaker. it's probably some additional benefit that you can add to the picture, but my personal perception is that you'd better have a kind of bad, whatever part of the body you name it, as a litigator than just a nice person. I prefer kind of, I would say that usually lawyers are not nice people, but that's part of the profession. I'm joking, of course, but I think, to some extent, we have a relatively hard task to pursue in our support and representation of our clients. I also truly believe that a good litigator without training is impossible, because we all kind of, easily expose our bad nature, but we need to expose our bad nature in a good way. And in case we are not able to do this, in case we're not able to understand what is good and what is bad, in case people in the litigation are not able to kind of pursue proper values and proper reasons and proper kind of things, they will not be able to be a good litigators. So I think that training, and not purely from the point of view of the professional training, but probably also from the point of view of the value training, is extremely important for a good litigator. Obviously, I believe that a good litigator is a charismatic person, because you have to convince too many people that you are right. Maybe a true believer to some extent. That's because if you don't believe with what you are doing, then technically it doesn't convince anybody else. And I think that a good litigator is a person in some kind of desperation, because why exactly do you want to go in a kind of be full of negative emotions to very much extent, to be surrounded by negative emotions all your life? And I think that this kind of desperation is actually coming from two things, and one of them is probably you try to make the better world around yourself as well. And I think this kind of two kind of counterbalances are probably making a good litigator. On one side, nature; on the other side, training. On one side, kind of being surrounded by kind of surrounded by bad feelings and bad emotions all the time, but also trying to world better. These things, this kind of contradiction that's almost day-to-day clash is making a good litigator, at least from my point of view.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Well, it really, that makes probably us not litigators, right? I also consider that, transactional lawyers, they're lawyer. So these are the people who make this, and the litigation lawyers make war. But Bruce, please reserve the thought to oppose our non-litigators.
But they make more of our bad moves sometimes,
Yeah, and we will come back to this with when we discuss the question number 2, about the training of litigators. Felix, what is your thoughts?
And
what are the factors that made you good litigator after all?
I'm not speaking of myself, but I had the opportunity to encounter a lot of good litigators in my profession, because I always fight against good litigators, and I learned that litigators are very different people. So you cannot say it is important, of course, that we are discussing what makes a good litigator, but my observation is the good litigator can be very, very different personalities. And having the questions where the good litigators came from, I think of my favorite cartoon film. It is Ratatouille. I look at every year and in the New Year's Eve with my children. And you maybe know this film. This is about a rat, and this rat becomes a famous chef in a haute cuisine Paris restaurant. And the film is about a saying, anybody can cook. And in the very end, the end of the film is that the very demanding critic, Ego, saying, oh, now I understand the saying. Not everyone can become a great artist, but great artists can come from anywhere. So I think it is like my credo, because I see that a lot of different people with very, very different personalities can be very good litigators. And I think it is very important what Bruce said and what Vladislav said. There is still something that makes these all different people to good litigators. So I think What is important for my thinking is some talent and some experience for this. But for me, it is very important to be determined. And what Vladislav described as maybe a desperation and maybe the sense of fighting, I think it is maybe from my perspective more important is maybe another trait is a lack of competitiveness. So you try to compete and you try to win. It is always the competition and it's always the great enjoyment if in the end your conception prevailed and you won.
Very, very, very interesting. So competitions like in sport, but well, I have always different feeling. I can understand perfectly concept of two teams, competing for a victory. And I can understand that the role of the referee in this competition is rather secondary. So these are not referees who really define who is the winner in the game. But in the litigation, you always have someone who really has to tell you if you are good or if you're right or wrong. And it really made me feel like I'm so dependable on judges. And it was so terrible. It was such a terrible experience, but maybe because, well, I was very, very unlucky to have the judges that really ruined my career as a perfect litigator. Okay, Anna, what is your experience? Because you started from the domestic litigation. So you had, you started from the referees that really felt like tsars in the courtroom.
Thank you, Alexander. Basically, I think that during your introduction, you mentioned key elements of my presentation or my issues, because you mentioned very important words, and you will see how I will implement them. So again, as Bruce said, and actually it's very difficult to speak after everyone, I also thought what makes a person a good litigator, and I think that there are a lot of qualities which can be learned, but at least one quality which should be in your DNA, otherwise you will not be able to be a good litigator. And I think this is a resistance to fear or some kind of courage. And you mentioned at your beginning that it was not comfortable for you to be in the court. And I think that if someone asks himself or herself whether he or she wants to be a litigator, there is only one good test. You need to go to the court and you need to feel this experience yourself. Actually, this experience may be really a disaster, especially our first cases. I think everyone can remember something completely going completely on another direction. But if you still love this experience and you think that, okay, maybe I was not so good this time, but I will definitely be better next time, and you want to continue with the litigation, then you have this skill and you have this resistance to fear. And basically, you are kind of a drug addict. You also mentioned this word in the beginning, because at least my experience, me personally, this is really a drug. When you prepare for some case, very complicated case, and you really worry, you depend on your, can you hear me well? Yeah. And you really worry that you depend on particular judge, and it's very confusing. But at the same time, when you win, you actually feel it's nothing to compare with this feeling, I believe. So I think that we all, litigation lawyers, we are really drug addicts. But I think that there are other qualities which can help litigators to be good and great litigators. And I think actually Felix mentioned this, he even used the same words I wanted to say. I saw brilliant litigators with different personas, completely different personalities, but they all were really great. And I think what combined them, it's a kind of authenticity. So they were all authentic, and they really, as Bruce mentioned, that they used their strong qualities in order to prevail. And I think that this sense of authenticity, this helps you to create trust in a court. And basically, trust is another very, very important element of victory, because the more I think about this, the more I understand that trust probably is a secret ingredient. I don't know, 90% of your victory depends on this sense of trust, which you can create in your judges, arbitrators. And as mentioned Vladislav, there is also a matter of charisma. I call this likability. And thanks God, we have some tools how to create this likability in our judges. I will not tell this right now, maybe later. And the last point, and actually I think I am not now a good example, I think a good skill is to make complex things simple, but at the same time not to oversimplify them, because you either force a judge to think that you are not very smart, or to force a judge to think that the judge is not very smart, and both options are not very good. So to keep it simple, but not to oversimplify. That's from my experience.
Yeah, thank you very much, Anna. Thank you very much. Very, very fruitful, really, indeed. Maxadul, we move into Dhaka, back to Dhaka.
Yes, thank you so much.
Go ahead. The floor is yours.
A good litigator must take control of the situation. It can be at the beginning, it can be at the middle, and it can be at the end. He must take control over the entire situation when everybody will look at you. And when you take control of the situation, you should not let it go. You should carry it till the end. This is the first quality of a litigator. And I can give you an example. A few days back, I was moving a case. I had 4 opponents against me, and they were giant lawyers. Each had 20 minutes of their own. Then my floor came. When I was speaking, an audience of more than 100 was so quiet that I can hear my breath. And I knew that I am going to win this case, because I had the control over the situation. Second thing a good litigator must have, he must know the fact very clearly. He must be calm, composed, and must have wittiness, humor, if he wants to win a case. And he also must have the desire to win. If he does not feel good about the entire thing, he will never win. He must read a lot, quite a lot. He must understand the Russian alphabets, 33 of them, if he wants to convince someone in Russian. I'm giving you an example. Once in 2005, I went to Italy to move a case there. I couldn't understand a single bit of Italian language except ciao, sia, all those hi, hello things. Because I had a friend called Albino, who was my roommate in London when I did my bar. But in that court, I was representing a client from another jurisdiction in Arab. The Italian judge was furious with me because he would not understand anything through the interpreter. Even the interpreter was not telling that thing what I was trying to tell. But I was persisting him to tell him something which he refused. No, he will not tell it. I said, no, you do it. Do it. You just do it, what I'm telling you. And he did it, and I won that case as well in Italy. So what I am telling you, that a good litigator, you must think 2-3 things at a time. You cannot think only one thing. When I talk to Ekaterina, I also can think about you as well. So a good litigator must think multiple things at one time. And whenever he talks, he must not leave an open end in the court, that whenever he is changing completing his sentence, he should not leave a loose end from where the other side or the judge can pick something and to ask you something in return. You should complete the sentence, whatever you are saying, talking. So I think a good litigator, as I said, that must see beyond what he can see. You cannot see that this is only we see the darkness, but we cannot see the multi colors which make this darkness. We can see the white color, but we cannot see that emptiness. We have to see like this. A good litigator must also understand the client's emotion and understanding. He must give the client a good opportunity to explain his part of the story. If you do not give the good enough time to since you know everything, so you may feel that he knows everything. No, that's not true. So the client, whenever he's coming to you, you must give him enough time. And in the court, as I said, you are the director, you are the actor, you are the producer in front of the judge. So you must organize your drama or your, whatever you call it, in the podium, so that everybody, as if you are the Shakespeare of your own, you are creating your own scene and drama, everything. There are many things I can say about it. I don't know how much I can tell, because this is what I do. And as you know, I am a barrister at law. So one of the guy who is from UK, he knows what is a barrister. Most of the people in the world, they do not know what is the difference between a solicitor and the barrister. I was trained to be a litigator in London. So I must say that I'm not a bad litigator, because I win most of the cases. Nowadays, I practice in my own language, so sometimes my English is not as good as it used to be earlier. But for the last 20 years, I speak Bengali when I speak here, except on few occasions. But I'm not a bad litigator. I consider myself as a sometimes good, sometimes moderate, but it's not a bad litigator. I take a case very seriously. And whenever I go to court, I make sure that I know everything. And I always try to take control of the court, if I can. From me.
Thank you very much, Maksadullah. I was listening to you, and I really had an impression that you are talking about the professional sport, like team games. And I bet you did some professional sport. You did some sport, and that was a team game, right? What was it? Was it hockey? Yeah.
Hockey? Oh no, it's cricket. We call it.
Okay, well, again, it's a team game. It's just wonderful. And yeah, as a professional sport, and I was doing a lot of sport when I was young, and it's a wonderful feeling that you have a wonderful victory. So the adrenaline is just like wow, and you are. I believe I can fly, but well, epic fails come with the territory, you know, and. I probably didn't have enough courage, well, as Anna put it, just to accept it that if you come to the court, you can win, but you cannot control everything. So you really must accept that sometimes, well, I'm gonna lose. I'm gonna be like really pushed to the bottom, and
yes.
It's.
You must push to the bottom, you're right. And as the lady said, that you must have the courage and overcome the fear. That is true. Mm-hmm. And most importantly, as I said, that you have to have the knowledge, depth of knowledge. You cannot just know only one thing in your life and you do not know the other thing. You have to know everything to become a good lawyer.
Yeah. Thank you very much. But, well, everyone wants to have more victories than defeats, right? And in order to have a lot of victories, so you really have to train yourself. And in a sport, well, you must have a talent, but you have to have a lot of training. So what is the kind of training part in the litigation career? But how do you train to be a good litigators? Is it just by doing this, or you can actually train something outside of the courtroom to succeed? How should a training for a good litigator look like? Or again, it is not that much about the training, it's more about your talent. You are born a good litigator, certain set of skills or talents. Can we start with you again, Maksadul?
It is not all about the training, you are right. You have to have something built within you. You have to have the own ability to grasp around the surroundings. You have to have the knowledge of your own to become a good litigator. Training is not everything. Training is something. And at the same time, you must also observe how the good litigator is performing. You must go to the court and see the good litigations, how they are happening, what is they doing. At the same time, you also must know how to handle a judge. All the judges have different temperament. So you need to understand the psychology of that judge as much as you can, and the surroundings, and your opponent, that you know that this opponent is aggressive or polite or humble, so that you can handle that, your other side, you know how you are prepared about him. So you have to have a inside knowledge about the courtroom, the judge, and the lawyer of the other side, and not everything. I think training. I have some juniors who works for me. Whenever they come, I can tell them that he will pick up things in 6 months, and some of them they will not be able to pick up things even 6 years. They will remain as normal as.
Why? Is it a kind of, you know, a very little extract from the DNA that is not right for those people? Why can't the people be trained to do something good in 6 years if they're in a good firm with good mentors and so on?
That is a good question, but I cannot tell you because I'm not a doctor, but I have seen people, they cannot do this. They are simply scared of the judges. Yesterday, I sent my junior to a district court to file a small application. He even failed to file that one. He was so scared. Then I had to send another one for filing that application in the district court of Dhaka. But I think both. You need a training. You have to have a good understanding about the law, and also you have to be humble, polite, and you have to have the ability to do something. There are many things. Many people I know. You see, you also may know that we can also may have come across many person. Whenever I go to INT, I meet hundreds of people, thousands of them. But Ekaterina stands out of everything. I will call her, I will meet her. So this is how it works. So there are not everybody who has the ability to win over your friendship. So there are not everybody who will have the win over a case inside a courtroom. I think this is something inherent sometimes. Not necessarily. I have seen many English-speaking people, they can write properly, for example. They can speak English, it is their language, so they speak good English, of course, better than me sometimes. Even sometimes their accent is better than my accent is very strong, but they cannot write. It is an ability they could not grasp. So not necessarily that everybody will have all the ability they have, they think, but I think that is both. You try, perseverance is always necessary, but at the same time, sometimes there are some thing in build which makes, there are some phobia. You don't know how that phobia is. My office is in the 18th floor. I have a client who will never come to the 18th floor. I had to go downstairs to meet him. He will never take the lift to come 18th floor. He's so much phobia. So maybe there is something genetical or DNA in the DNA that makes you a good litigator. I even tried to learn this Russian language. I couldn't do it. I'll try again.
Well, I believe that it is easier to learn Russian rather than to learn to be courageous, you know. Okay, thank you very much, Maksadul. Moscow, Anna.
Thank you. You asked a question how to become a good litigator.
How to train?
I have
Can you make a good litigator out of me, for instance?
But you don't want to be a good litigator, so we will not try. We will not even try. You are wonderful and genius in other things. But I have bad news. I don't think that there are other ways of learning how to be a litigator apart from doing this. Even when you go with someone superior and you watch other people doing litigation and you see them in practice, basically this is, of course, this is great, but this is not enough because you don't feel enough responsibility for the case, and you actually you are not completely in the moment. So you need to go and you need to do it yourself. You need to feel this fear, as you mentioned, that yes, there is always a possibility of failure, yes, and you only can do this by, you need to do this. The only thing I like, is probably maybe many of you know, I like psychology. So the only other thing I think people can do if they are not able to go to the court, it's just to practice mentally. And as experiments show that if sportsmen can practice mentally and can achieve good results, then litigators also can practice mentally and at least have some additional experience. I mean, you practice reactions of the judge, you practice some difficult questions, you practice if you're interrupted, and so on and so on and so on.
Thank you very much. Really very valuable remark. Thank you. And then Frankfurt, Felix.
Yeah, thank you. So how to become a good litigator? Again, my observations from, I think maybe it is three things, and I would like to focus on one thing. I think it is the knowledge, some knowledge, it is some experience, some training, it is something above, something, a bit of talent. But I would like to practice, and maybe an unusual trait of a litigator. I think it is very important, and it is usually be perceived not maybe to be very important if the litigation is perceived as a kind of a show. But in Germany, litigation is very not very much like a show. So litigation in Germany is not very spectacular. It is a lot of writing and a lot of written argument, a lot of really. How do I say it? This is a battle of brains, or a lot of really written persuasion. So I think the first ability a good litigator should have it. It is just not you cannot not have it. A good litigator have to be good in law. What does it mean? It means a good litigator has to know this legal problem, has to have a good research skills, and the most important is it is ability and just a capability. You can train this capability. It's capability of a good legal argument. Because the commercial cases in Germany, they may be decided, maybe 80% is the question of law, and maybe 20% is a question of fact. Of course, the facts are very, very important. But in the end, almost all cases, or in majority of cases, they end up with a legal argument. And it is very important to win this battle. And also, it is maybe a German angle. You never talk to jury. You always talk to professional judges, to highly qualified professional judges, and they have to respect you. And they only respect you if you show them that you are at least as good in law and have the ability of legal argument as they have. Of course, and I'm convinced that there's another panelist will add a lot of another capabilities and traits, but I wanted just to focus on this one.
Well, you know, after all, when we play football, so maybe the German teams don't play very spectacular, but they just make 3 goals and they score. That's it, and they world champions. Well, sometimes.
Yeah, Felix is Russian,
frankly,
by the way, if you really don't remember this.
Well, but I'm resident in Germany. You know, when Germany was victorious in the World Cup in 2014, I really felt like I become a world champion. You know, it's a tricky thing. It's a tricky experience. I would wish you to have something like this, really. So just before we move to London, I just want to draw your attention. So Bruce suggested a very, very thorough list of, you know, litigation skills to be trained in our chat, and I would strongly recommend to look at them, maybe for your comments and so on, because I think it's very, very valuable and very, very thorough. So Vladislav, training litigators.
Training litigators, you know, by food, right? So technically offering them good food and they're trained well. No, I mean, from my point of view, I think that there are almost no natural litigators. There are kind of, you know, natural, kind of, you know, complicated people with a lot of, you know, stress and complexes. But otherwise, I think that good litigators are coming only from training, because you can be as bad as you want, and you still will not be a good litigator. I believe that, you know, there are a number of things that are very important for being a good litigator. First of all, as I've mentioned before, it's important to have a good education. You have to be knowledgeable, you have to be professional, you have to understand the nature of law, you have to understand the substance of law, you have to understand the process of law in order to be a good litigator. On the other side, you have to be a good psychologist, as Anna said. You know, you have to be able to be convincing. You have to understand your client. You have to explain your client to the people around. You have to make, you know, your speech convincing and interesting and fun to listen in many cases. And from that point of view, you cannot get it just, by being born. You have to raise these kind of qualities inside of yourself. And as the most important thing, as I've mentioned before, I think that, in many cases, judges are still trying to make world better. And that's why in many cases, they're trying to kind of align themselves with this goal in their judicial decisions. So you have really to be a kind of person of good nature in a way. So you kind of, able to find something good in sometimes very bad, or in sometimes, something that is really good and need to be protected properly. So you need to kind of to look at the things much broader than just kind of, pure case or pure, interpretation of the particular article or particular case. And from that point of view, you cannot be educated and knowledgeable and intelligent person without really growing yourself to this position. So I would say that it's kind of, it's less than 20%, nature, and it's definitely much more than 80% of kind of training, education, development, personal development, psychological development, human development to very much extent. So, and let me put it this way, if I'm looking for two different persons, one is natural, another well-trained, frankly speaking, I prefer to select well-trained person versus natural, because we never know where exactly the natural persons will end up. And we all know where the well-trained persons will end up. So it's kind of, I think, to some extent, it's like a good breed. You have to breed yourself to the good litigator. You cannot just, to be born and enjoy all the benefits. Yes, there are people who are actually quite good at what they're doing by being natural, but it's much more unpredictable. The outcome may be much more tricky for the clients. And in many cases, what I can see in this kind of type of personalities, they don't hear other people. They don't hear the clients. They don't understand what clients really want and what clients really trying to achieve. And if you are not listening to this, even if you are a good technical litigator, you are not good litigator in general. Thank you.
Yeah, very remarkable. I really realized what made us bad litigators. Litigator, I learned in the law school that it's about due procedure. And you always start your oral statements with the concluding remarks, like sentencing both of us to some, and then adding some arguments to that. But well, I really appreciate it. I always had this thought, in order to be well trained, you have to have a lot of training. So by doing. And in order to do this, you should really enjoy it, because, well, if you don't like football, why bother training so much? Because you're still supposed to have fun about what's going on. When I listen to what Anna has to say about how she experiences this, happening, well, I realize that the person is having fun, and we can only speculate how it looks from the screen. But anyway, thank you very much. Very valuable remark. Thank you, Bruce.
Yeah, I'm sure that wherever Anna is having fun with somebody, it's not a fun for those who are having this fun with her.
For opposing party, yeah, I absolutely agree with you. Absolutely. Thank you, Bruce. The floor is yours. Mike.
Alexander.
Bruce. Yeah.
Right. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the discussion has been very abstract, and I think it was Anna quoted Einstein, who spent the last 30 years of his life looking for the unification of forces. I feel like we're looking for the one thing that you want to have to be a good litigator, and I think that the best way to approach that problem for me is to imagine a jury. Which we have in the United States, of course, 12 people, and a judge, and a witness. And I'm a lawyer in the courtroom, and I'm examining a witness, asking questions to the witness, and the jury is listening to the witness, and the judge is watching the witness I want all attention to be on the witness. I don't want anybody thinking about me. I don't want to use a big word when I could use a small word. I've got to ask questions in a way that takes me out of it. In other words, it's kind of an ego nullification. And the fact of the matter is, I could be the most charismatic person in the world, or I could be a strange, ugly, Gottkutunik, right? But it doesn't matter as long as I have the humility to take myself out of the equation so that the jury is looking at the witness. I might be asking questions to the witness, but the jury's looking at the witness, not looking at me, no matter how strange or funny looking or weird I am. And I think that juries are like anybody else. They will forgive you if you're authentic. So going back to Einstein and the unification of forces, you know what he said about simplicity, right? He said everything should be as simple as possible, but no more so. So I think that the single principle that I would seize upon after this discussion, and I would take it from Anna, I would say authenticity. Because if you have the humility and the authenticity, you can have whatever kind of personality traits you have. You don't have to worry about your personality traits. And you know, for me, the single most practical tip that I could offer is to look the other person in the eye and adjust yourself and be flexible and sensitive and empathic enough to understand intuitively what that person is perceiving, whether it's the jury, or the witness, or the judge. Mm-hmm. And if you're reading, you're going to be inhibited in doing that. So, but I would just say that it's a matter of being authentic. Another quality trait that was mentioned was courage and the ability to manage fear. A sense of humor is a great thing to have. If you don't take yourself too seriously, then you won't be overly afraid of getting your ass kicked, right? And so and you know, I don't know, how do they call this in Russian? Poфигизм? I don't know.
Yeah, fair enough. That's very precise.
And you know, for me, I just had my 67th birthday. The worst that can happen to me is that I just retire. So I should be more afraid than I am about the situations. But there's just to sum it up, there's 1,000 different ways you could be a good litigator. And if you are authentic, you'll know what your good qualities are, what your deficits and bad qualities are. You won't try to hide any part of yourself. You will take your ego out of it and do the best you can. And remember, something that nobody mentioned here was that we take the facts as we find them. Part of who wins and loses the cases depends on our litigants and our clients. Who's got the better case? So another essential trait to being a good litigator is to be able to know the good cases from the bad ones before you take one. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah, thank you very much. Once you mentioned that, well, you stand in front of the jury, right? Because you might be the only one among us in our little group who actually represent the client in front of the jury. I'm so curious, just if you can share your experience if you have a professional judge in front of you, or you have the jurors.
I absolutely will. And it circles back to authenticity, because the one thing that you'll find prevalent among litigators, in particular, because they're so competitive, is that they will aggrandize and exaggerate their own experience and capabilities. That is the opposite of authenticity and the opposite of humility. But in the intellectual property space, in trademark litigation anyway, trials usually are not by jury. So I have actually not had a jury trial in an intellectual property case. But before I was an intellectual property litigator, I spent 9 years doing securities, energy, labor, all of that kind of thing, and civil litigation. So as I said, the key thing would be to look the person in the eye and be authentic and take your ego out of it. But as far as having a complete trial in a trademark case, I think it's a very bad quality to be boastful. And I say this not to be boastful, but I'm the only person. The last 3 intellectual property firms that I was with, I was the only lawyer in the trademark group who had actually taken a case all the way to trial. But you wouldn't know it to listen to the way people describe their experiences. So don't get intimidated. Don't let anybody intimidate you ever. I think it was Vladislav made an excellent point. If you are strong, if you know how to break down doors and trample the opposition, that's a good way to win a case. But all of my most successful cases have been against litigators who were the break down the doors type. So I find that if you have the writing skills and if you can combine the writing obviously is important. I mean, you got to really know how to write. But if you can employ some humor and some humility and some authenticity, that's the way to go.
Thank you very much.
Could I?
Yeah, Ekaterina, of
could I
course.
add something? Yeah. Actually, I want to pay your attention that the litigation is not only telling something before the court, it's also the team that is working on the document, on strategy, and everything. So to train the litigator, maybe it's not only the person who is like having a speech before the court, but also the training the team that is preparing the document. So maybe it's even the more important part of our work to make that we are telling about writing, but it's not only, for example, for me, it's not, I'm not writing all the documents myself. Of course, I have some other who help me to do this. And what I'm doing, I'm training them to do it in a, like in the right way, in the understandable way, in the that judge would accept this kind of documents, and I would not be able to do the litigation without them. And I want also to pay your attention that we have a question. Who could you?
Yeah, we do have a question. I believe.
Yeah, actually, it's my student I have given them the task to make a question before our panelists. So
I believe every member of the group can read this question now, and I would like to draw your attention to it. And if somebody wants to volunteer to answer that, please go ahead. I will give you the word immediately. Thank you, Ekaterina, for making this point. Look, let's just make a final round, and let's just make it short. We all have one thing in common. We all somehow involved in the international practice. And so now there is a concept of the so-called local lawyer. So the global set of skills instead of local expertise. So if we are working for the international clients, so these clients have some expectations that are global in the nature, because, well, they come from all around the world, and the expectations from the lawyer can be different. Whatever we do, a transaction, contract, or litigation, we still serve the client. And well, but I would say the M&A lawyer does it in a nice way, and a litigation lawyer does it with fear, phobias, with all these kind of terrible things, from my point of view, right? By serving the lawyers, the clients that expect something from us, global clients, we still provide some kind of local expertise in the court. And if I can ask you to make a very, very short statements within 1 minute, like what, from your experience, is global in the set of skills of litigators, and what is local? Because Felix just once mentioned that the German proceedings have some kind of specificities. Can we just rather say, and this is my hypothesis, that Russian litigators might be totally different from the German litigators because the German courts totally different from the Russian courts? Or we are still talking about some kind of international set of skills that made a good litigator? Short statements. Let's start from Dhaka, Maksadul.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
I think you are right, and our court system is very different from the court system in UK. I had an opportunity to practice in UK not as a litigator but as an assistant to a litigator. So court system is really different from one jurisdiction to another jurisdiction. In our jurisdiction, in IP jurisdiction, it's a very simple procedure. Nothing happens there. You just put some documents. There are some cases. You just refer those cases, and that's it. There is nothing happens called litigation as it happens in a courtroom. In the, when you talk about the IP court, but when the case goes to the High Court and in the appellate jurisdiction, then it becomes a jurisdiction. So you are correct that local jurisdiction from this country to another country, it varies from different angles. For example, we do not have any jury system anymore. We do not have any jury. We have only one judge, or sometimes we have a two-member, we call it division bench, we call it two-member court, and sometimes we have five-member court. So we do not have any jury. So that's how it works. And another thing I also want to stress, this is not a drama in a way I wanted to portray. Of course, it's a intellectual drama, but documentary works is very important than the litigation, because judge will examine the documents with your litigation expertise whenever you present the case before the court. So knowledge in about the facts and the law itself is very important, and training, as we all have discussed, is also very important. And it is true that natural litigator is not that we want to rely on. We must have somebody who has the expertise and the knowledge and the experience in this field, so that we do not land in a wrong areas. This is also true. And locally and co-local, whatever, I do not think that I can add for that except that we are a different jurisdiction with a different court system than the UK court system. I have not been to the German court system, but UK court system we can, and US court system we watch on those telly, on those suits and Meghan Markle, all those things, that's how we have seen, but that's not reality, I know. But anyway, that's my observation, unless you have any specific for me to ask.
Thank you very much. But at least, we all can speak English, more or less. And that means, well, that makes us kind of global. So it looks like the English language is the skill that might be expected from any litigator practicing everywhere in the world, no matter is it domestic litigation or international arbitration. Well, Anna, what are your thoughts about locality of the litigators.
Thank you, Alexander. As for English, actually, I remember it was your phrase, and I like it a lot, and I still think about it, that currently, if you don't know English, you reject the whole world. So basically, if you want to live in the current world, you need to know English. I think there are a lot of characteristics that unify lawyers across the world, and I can name some of them. For example, sharp mind and quick reaction, analytical skills, and good management skills. I think this is what Ekaterina mentioned. It's actually, yes, this is correct. This is always teamwork, and you need to have this good management skills. But I think it's also open mind and cross-cultural awareness, I think. So it's a readiness to be open to differences in other cultures and other people. Basically, probably that's it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Very valuable. Felix?
Yeah, I think it is difficult to have this position between global and local, because from my perspective, dispute resolution is mostly local. So it is another business resolution in Germany. It is very specific and local, and the US local, and in Russia local, and in Sri Lanka local. So, but what is global about it is it's really. I think it is very good. Anna put it, the awareness that there is a difference. And what Vladislav made a point that it is very important to understand the client. So as a very good global skill is just if you have a client abroad, and if your dispute resolution case is somehow touches a foreign country, that you have to be aware that in another country there are another rules, and you have to adjust. And it is very important. You have to explain your client that what you are doing in your country is something very much different from what he expects. So it is very important to be empathetic and to look at you and at your case through the eyes of your client.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm just wondering if you say that, do you serve law and do you serve the clients? What's going to be the German order for the lawyer?
Of course, you know, in the German law, that says you are kind of part of judicial system. And the first thing I heard as a young lawyer, you are the hired gun. So you are somewhere in between. I understand myself pretty much as a hired gun, but of course we have to obey our legal system. We don't have to, but I'm not above the client. I am always under the client or vis-a-vis the client, but never above him.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Of course you are. Yeah, thank you. Vladislav.
I think that the difference is kind of, you know, we can actually play back and forth with different definitions. Probably I will just try to add a bit perception from my point of view. Obviously, to be an international lawyer, to be a kind of global lawyer, you have to be able to communicate, and you have to be able to be connected. Because life is very different, world is very different, you know, lawyers are very different, judges are very different. The question is that you have to be able to kind of understand them, deliver your message, and to be able to kind of associate yourself with the task or with the purpose or with the idea. So technically, you may be a different country lawyer, but you still need to understand and to be able to accept that, you know, the German law is different from English law, and the German court is different from English court. And in case you are able to accept this, then you are able to become a part of this. Because otherwise you will be always a foreign item in this kind of, you know, system. And the second part, I believe, when we're talking about local lawyers, first of all, we're talking about professionalism. I think every lawyer has to be extremely professional. And then we talked about good lawyers, bad lawyers, but in case you don't know what you are doing, you are never going to be a good lawyer. And in many cases, I believe that even if we or our clients or you guys are practicing international law, you are still based on the local knowledge and local law. If it's a dispute between Germany and Kenya, they don't need Russian lawyer, let me put it this way. And in many cases, you will not be involved in this kind of dispute. If it's an English law, then it should be some kind of knowledge of English law that will be involved, even if it's done in Singapore. So from that point of view, I think that, you know, the basis for our globality is to very much extend our locality. And I believe that, you know, in order to be a good international global lawyer, you have to be very good local lawyer. And, you know, it doesn't go backwards. It goes only this way, at least from my point of view. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, well, this kind of limited violence, limited enforcement, limited by law, you know, is still the kind of local thing in our world. And that's something that we can experience now when we watch the news. But still, I believe that it's such a wonderful thing that we can talk through the continents, like as if we're sitting in the same room. This is, I find it really amazing, truly amazing. Yeah, thank you very much. And Bruce, can you hear me? Mike, Bruce. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, there. I think Felix raised an interesting point about being an officer of the court. And it reminds me of the training that I had in the government, litigating with the insecurities and energy and other areas. If you're a government lawyer in the United States, your obligations and duties as an officer of the court are paramount to everything else. And so if you're having a discovery dispute, you will not conceal evidence. A lot of you'll run into a lot of lawyers who they want to present the evidence that is best for them, of course, and the evidence that's not so good for them, they want to keep that out. My experience is that all of the energy that you spent trying to keep the bad stuff out is not worth the energy that you lose in putting together your picture of the case. So I think, and that I should think that this would be true in most places. The best way to win the case is to be in control of the information, to know where all of the information is, to have your information organized in a way that makes it manageable and retrievable to yourself. And don't worry about the evidence that's not as good for you. Worry about making a true, authentic, winning picture of the entire evidence. So if the lawyers who try to conceal and manipulate the rules in ways that are dishonest and deceitful, and I think that's what, there's a lot of that. I think I can beat those lawyers by looking at all the information, controlling the information. When you ask about global, in my trademark practice, the question,
I would, yeah.
Go on.
But, you know, well, instead of that, let me just put it straight. You know, the straightforward question. Well, if you have a Russian client, or any other client from around the world, and this client, well, did not happen to have a successful experience in the domestic legal or judicial system, this client might expect, well, if you are a hired gun, you actually are supposed to shoot just at the moment when is the right moment to shoot, right? To kill, to shoot, to kill. And if it is a moment is somehow correlated with some kind of perjury or some kind of crime against justice. From the point of view of this client, you are supposed to shoot anyway. Can you be able to persuade the client that this is not how it's going to work?
Well, let me give you an example. We had a case for a Russian bank and insurance company, Ingostrach, and they had a commercial insurance contract that had nothing to do with the United States. They insured wheat in a vessel. The vessel arrived at a port. The wheat was rotten. The company had to make a second payment because it inadvertently routed a payment through a New York bank. It was a mistake. It was a clerical error that resulted from wiring a payment through a New York bank, and because of United States sanctions on Sudan, of all places, the payment was frozen by the Treasury Department, the Office of Foreign Asset Controls. And the client, of course, like anybody else, is reluctant to admit that an error was made, that the payment was not intended to be routed through New York, but it just, there's millions of these things, but we persuaded the client to be honest and transparent about how the situation happened. And we went into court and we made a complaint against the United States government, against the United States Department of Treasury and the Office of Foreign Asset Control. And we won it. We were the only case to ever win against an asset seizure because of what I just said. So yes, I think that clients can be persuaded of that. And the best policy, we have a saying in English, honesty is the best policy. And in my experience, that has been what wins at the end of the day. Yeah.
Thank you very much. It's really encouraging. Thank you. Thank you. Zoya, you were asking, Zoya Elienko from Barcelona is asking for a word. Zoya, just go ahead.
Hello,
Put on the mic.
I'll be real quick. I was just, I couldn't help adding and sharing my experience while listening to you, because my memories of my first court hearing are relatively fresh, because I got admitted to bar 5 years ago. So while I was listening to you, all these images came vividly to my head. And I felt very much associated with what Anna was saying about courage, because I still remember how just a week after I got admitted to bar, the head of my department said, okay, so now you are ready. Now you have to go to court hearing. And my first court hearing was 1 week after I got my license to practice in the court. But he asked me, he said, are you ready? And I was like, I'm really scared, but I'm not gonna show. I said, of course I am. So if you add up to that I had to represent the interests of a client in Spanish, which is not my mother tongue. So I was like double scared. No experience, my first court hearing, and then I have to use a language that is not my mother tongue. So I agree 100% that it takes courage, but above that, I think it's a sense of, willingness to overcome your own limits, your own like fears and limitations. I guess that would be the precise term. And I also wanted to ask Anna, because she mentioned in the beginning that she has some likability tricks.
Go ahead.
So maybe she will share some. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your thoughts. And I encourage all the participants, not only those who are defined as speakers, to share their experience and make your remarks, but just to make them short. Thank you, Anna.
Zoe, first of all, thanks a lot. Your story is really impressive. I admire you a lot. As for likability, first of all, I will send you my book where I tell this tools or issues, but there are certainly at least two things you can do. First of all, likability. We like people who are like us, so we need to be alike, or we need to find at least something which is common between us and our judges, for example. And second thing, we like people who like us. So when we go to the court, especially this is true in the Russian court, it's really difficult sometimes. You need to find something very good and pleasant in your judge. Probably it's much easier to do in Germany, in the USA, in Bangladesh, in Spain. In Russia, it's not always the case, but you need to find something which you like in this particular judge, because otherwise the judge will feel that, I mean, your bad feelings, and this will backfire, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think, Alexander, this is actually a point to add to the previous discussion about what's global about the local. I guess the global is the human factor, because in the end, wherever you are, the court has the human factor. You might follow like the local procedural rules, but still, we are all humans, and it's going to be there everywhere you are.
So another participant from the United States is joining our discussion. Leonid, just put on your mic.
Hi guys, how are you? I just want to add a couple of words. I've been listening very attentively, and I think...
introduce yourself, Leo. So there are some people in this world who don't know who you are.
Oh yeah, my name is Leo Graf. I'm a patent attorney. I've been coming to Siberian Legal Week now since I think 2016. So I participate quite a bit in it, and I think that this particular discussion in English is very important for many reasons, from introduction to how international attorneys who speak both languages work and think. And this particular discussion is great. I'm not a litigator, and I'm actually a patent attorney, but interesting point is that I've learned that one of the top patent litigators are not actually patent practitioners, meaning that they don't have science background. So I'm going to go with Bruce's experience and to say that litigation and everybody else that really is litigation certainly has an aspect of talent, and maybe there's something there that is unique to this particular field of the particular practice. But I want to point out that while we had a lot of notions and a lot of discussions, and I think every single point has its truth, I want to just kind of point out that the authenticity really rings true to me, because from many different aspects, from being relatable even to both clients, judges, jury. This is what brings a good attorney to be the best he can be, and the proofiest point, because folks look at you and the first thing they understand, they trust you. And if they trust you and you're truthful, you will make a better call and a better practitioner and a more persuasive attorney, irrespective of your field. So I think that's a great point. And unfortunately, I think litigators in general, and I don't want to think there's a competition factor to it, but litigation in general, especially in the US, where I see this exaggeration and bolstering and constant trying to be on top of the other thing is, I think our profession suffers from that. And when we talk about cross-border clients, which I've worked a lot with, it's that building of a trust and understanding what your client needs. It's really what's important. And again, the authenticity has that. It just rings true to me that I think that's an important factor for any professional and for any attorney, and definitely for a litigator. Thank you for all your thoughts. It was fantastic to listen to everyone, and it's great.
Thank you, Leo. Thank you. Look, anyone dare to volunteer for to answer the question about the moot courts and their roles in growing good litigators? If Anna?
I see that Felix also wanted to answer.
Oh, okay.
Actually,
okay.
My answer is pretty short. Yes, moot court experience is different from real court experience, but until you have your real court experience, I think moot experience is pretty good, because you always can practice, as we call it from one Russian Soviet movie, you can always practice on cats. So practice on your moot arbitrators until you have your real experience.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Felix? You wanted to add on something?
I actually have nothing to add, and I think the moot court experience is a great experience, a great tool to learn and to be a good litigator. So I think it is maybe even better to some experience in court. I don't want to diminish experience in court, but it is a different experience. Sometimes it is how essential, and you can see, you can if you have luck and you have a good and understandable arbitrators in the moot court, they will give you feedback, they will give you tips, and it is a great opportunity to grow professionally and to become a good litigator. So I encourage everybody to do it.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, Bruce, go ahead.
I just wanted to add one thing. We were talking about fear and courage, and I just wanted to say that as a litigator, there's only one thing that really terrifies me, and that is moot court. I'm much more comfortable going into a courtroom than I am in an office at my law firm with my practice group evaluating me and criticizing my performance. And I will do anything I can to avoid having to prepare in that fashion. So they have to go and actually physically force me into the room to do that. But it always makes your performance better. Moot court is more difficult, more demanding, more uncomfortable than actual courtroom to me.
Yeah.
And if you can get through that, you'll be better in the courtroom.
Thank you very much. I really wish I would have such a nice phobia as a moot court phobia. Look, we're about to wrap up our discussion. I really want to give, it's a kind of improvisation, so we didn't rehearse that. I really want to give every speaker really, truly 10 seconds. Well, maybe 15 seconds up, to, the most important thing, the most important idea you really pick up today and you want to take, to take with you as a kind of, something that you put in your pocket and keep in mind for the rest of your life, something that you learn from here, or something that you really enforced, something you believed before and now you believe in more in what you truly believed before. Wrap up from everybody. Who's gonna start? Well, let's say Vladislav. One thing, one thesis, one idea.
Probably 3, but in 4 and 6 words. Follow your nature. Develop yourself to as good as you're able to be and enjoy what you are doing. And then, it makes you a great litigator, good person, and, just, lovely human being.
Okay. Anybody else? Who's going to be next? Bruce, go ahead.
I want to say that I believe in the rule of law and I believe in the relationship between our countries. And I'm committed to the friendship and the relationship and the management.
Oh, thank you very much.
Our relationship.
Thank you very much. I truly going to drink beer tonight for the Russian-American friendship.
Yeah, I'll join you in spirit.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
Not German football team, right?
Anyone else?
I just one thing. So if you want to play and win in a really intellectual competition, intellectual and psychological competition, became a litigator.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. Max Adul.
I'm just wondering whether you guys are going to patent the vaccine you have invented, Sputnik 5 or Sputnik V, for this coronavirus. I hope you will not do that because we need it very badly.
Okay, okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Ekaterina, Leo, Zoya, anyone else? Well, if
I just want to thank everyone for sharing the experience. It was interesting. That was what is my insight understanding that I've taken from the session is that indeed I really have no choice to be a litigator or not to be. So I'm just a litigator. That's the part of our profession. That's the part of things that we are doing in our life. And really, I'm happy that I'm able to do that. And I'm happy that our clients still stay with us, even if we fail in some cases. So, and I just want to thank everyone. And I hope that it was, I'm sure actually that it was interesting for everyone.
So,
yes, we have not,
yeah,
we could not meet in any of the INTA conference for last 2 years. So this gave me the opportunity to meet many of my colleagues, especially Ekaterina, and good to see her through this webinar.
Oh, this is really wonderful. Well, as a former sportsman and a huge sport fan, I can say something that I learned from today's experience, that there are a lot of skills, there are a lot of hard work behind the victories. There are a lot of emotions on the stadium and by players. You can see it, but after also we all like sport, and sport is a kind of comparable thing with what we have discussed. We all like sports because, well, we see the wonderful players in the field, and it was such an enjoyable experience talking to all the litigation sports stars in this session. And you are the people why the clients really pay the fees for, and you really make make difference. And thank you very much for joining our team. And I believe that was quite a good that was quite a good game. Yeah, thank you, and have a nice rest of the day, and hope to see you on next occasions. Thank you for all the participants who joined us from all around the world. Bye bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you for having us. Bye bye.